Hello everyone, this is topic 2, skill 3, writing inequalities, and this is the last skill that you need to practice for the level 2 information for topic 2. So let's get started. Let's first remind ourselves about the form that we used when we are writing inequalities. The first thing that we look for is the delta, which in other words is the rate of change. The x is the variable. This f of 0 is our starting value. And this f of x is our ending value. Now in my other video I had the f of x at the beginning. You could have it at the beginning or you could have it at the end. It doesn't really matter as long as you have it in there and it's on the other side of the equal sign. What's different, however, is that we are now writing an inequality. So instead of an equal sign, I'm going to be using our inequality symbols instead. So that's going to be a less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. So that will replace the equal sign depending on our situation. As a reminder, here are the 4 inequality symbols, and on the board is written the inequality symbols. However, there might be a few different ways that you see them represented in our word problems right now. So the first one, greater than, you might see greater than, bigger than, more than. The second one, greater than or equal to, you might also see it as at least. So anything this number or bigger, so that means the same thing as greater than or equal to. So if I want at least 2 friends, I want 2 friends, or I want 3 friends, or I want 4 friends. So that is a greater than or equal to situation. The third symbol is less than, or smaller than, or I guess those are the 2 that I would think of. And then less than or equal to, you might also hear it as no more than. So if I want to spend less than or equal to $20, I could spend up to $20, but it would have to be no more than that because I don't have any more money than that. So it could be 20 or 15 or 10 or $18, which would be a less than or equal to. Example 3, we are just continuing our example numbers from the last video. Jacob is selling t-shirts. He bought 200 t-shirts for $400. He sells each one for $15. Write an inequality to represent how many t-shirts Jacob would have to sell to make at least $300 profit. So what I look for first is what type of expression, equation, or inequality am I writing? And I see it says write an inequality. So that, to me, right away, just triggers that I need one of those inequality symbols. Now, however, I don't know which one to use yet, so I still want to stick with my normal, what we've been working on and looking for. I do have an equal sign down there now, but we're going to switch that once we go further into it. So what is my change? What is my repeated multiplication? Well, remember, you are looking for a few keywords. Look for each, every, or per. Now, do you see any of those words in here? Well, each, he sells each one for $15. There it is. So each one, the number that's being represented, that multiplication every time, is 15. So my change is going to be 15. My variable, though, let's see, you could just use x, but the 1 is referring to the t-shirt. So we could also just use maybe a t. The second thing I'm looking for is my f of 0, which is my starting value. How much? Well, we got to think about this for a minute. What am I trying to start with? Am I focusing on money, or am I focusing on number of t-shirts? And if I go back through my problem, I see I'm talking about money, I'm talking about money, and I'm talking about money. I don't necessarily care how many shirts I started with, but what I do care is how much money I'm going to be making. So, in this case, my starting value is going to be not the starting value of number of t-shirts. So I'm not going to use that 200 t-shirts, but I am going to use the $400 for my starting amount of money. Now let me go back actually, because we have to think about our positives and negatives too. If we're trying to make money and he bought $400 worth of t-shirts, that money is actually not positive money that he's making and putting in his pocket. That money was money that we just had to start out with at the beginning, and we spent it. So that $400 is actually going to be a negative. So, $400, $15. Okay, now I'm looking for my f of x. Now my f of x is my ending value. So what I want is, how much money do I want at the end? I see $300, so I'm going to put 300 over there for my ending value, and I do want a positive $300. Now the only thing that's trickier about an inequality is that we have to figure out what symbol to use. So if I go back to this ending value and look for some words around it, I see that he wants to make at least $300 profit. And if we go back on our screen, the at least is going to be a greater than or equal to. I want to make at least $300. I could make more. I could make a lot more. That'd be fine, but I want to make at least $300. Last one, example 4. Benjamin is concerned about the environment. To help, he is planting 3-foot trees around his farm. This year he is going to plant 3 trees. Every year after, he plans on planting 2 more. Write an inequality to represent how long it will take for Benjamin to have more than 10 trees. So we are first going to see what kind of problem am I trying to find. Expression, equation, or inequality. If I go back and look at my words, it does say an inequality. So I know that that means that this equal sign has to be a different symbol. But we're going to handle that right at the very end. So let's look for our change first. That's always our first spot to start off with. Look for that each or every or per. And if I go back and read through, he is planning each year after, right above that white mark, right there, every year after, he plans on planting 2 more. So every year he's going to plant 2 more trees. So my change is that number, which is 2. And the variable, if we go back to look to see what word is represented with year, every, we see that it's year, so maybe our variable is going to be y. Now let's figure out what our starting value is. How many trees are we starting with? If we go back, he's planting 3-foot trees. That 3-foot trees, actually, I don't really care how tall the trees are. I'm looking for the number of trees. So actually this 3-foot trees is not important, but he is going to plant 3 trees this year. So my starting value for number of trees is going to be 3. And my ending amount that I want, here at the end it says, I want to see to have more than 10 trees. So that 10 is going to be my ending value. The last step we need to do is figure out what symbol to put in the middle. So if we look for the words, it says more than. Well, another way to say more than is greater than. Greater than, more than, bigger than. So we are going to use the greater than symbol right in between those two. And there's my ending inequality for this situation. Good luck with your practice.